Beautiful, isn't it? I know what you're thinking. It's like being a kid in a candy store. And it is. Welcome everyone to the Dutch Packard Collection. And welcome to another review here on edsautoreviews. In this video I'm going to give you a very short history lesson on the Packard as a brand by using some very beautiful examples in this collection, as well as making a big step towards today and the future, as a new step has been added to the legacy of Packard. Packard is back. Packard started out building cars in the early 1900s in an effort to build a car that was better than the competition in terms of reliability, drivability and comfort. It essentially came down to this. In a search of finding a better car, Packard found that they should build one themselves. And so by the 1930s, Packard managed to deeply root itself as a luxury car maker. It was better known as one of the three P's of American luxury motoring: Peerless, Pierce Arrow and Packard. Packard was certainly a step above of such brands that we know today like Cadillac and Lincoln, but maybe not quite the Duesenberg. But it was also quite a rival to the European luxury cars like Rolls-Royce and Bentley. And it's in the 1930s that Packard introduced one of their classic design icons, the harp-shaped grille. And to give you an idea how expensive and luxurious these Packards were, they were mostly bought by very wealthy clients in the US, but outside the US they were almost exclusively and only bought by heads of state, presidents, royal families. Like this car right here. Because not only did Packard offer just standard models, they also offered just a bare chassis, so a platform, so that it could then be sent to a custom coach builder. Like this one. This one was sent to the French coach builder Souchik, and I think it's so beautiful. I mean, it has something European to it. I can't quite tell what it is, but it certainly looks slightly different than the rest of the Packards right here. But then a Second World War happened, which wasn't really a problem for Packard, as they made some nice money off some very lucrative war contracts. After the Second World War, they resumed with such cars like this. They featured the typical late 30s, 1940s torpedo aerodynamic styling, but Packard still tries to combine it with classical touches, like the harp-shaped grille that is still present and tastefully incorporated in the design, as well as a massive swan-shaped hood ornament. But this all changed by the start of the 1950s. Packard introduced, like many other American car companies, new designs for their cars, but kind of bet on the wrong horse. They decided to adopt the envelope pontoon styling, better known as the upside-down bathtub styling that you can also find on the Lincolns and the Mercuries, and you can see it on the cars right here. But it's a weird mix of contemporary early 50s styling and still trying to force the classical design elements of Packard on their cars, like the grills. The end result? Not the best looking cars in the industry. They were nicknamed the pregnant elephants, which isn't exactly a compliment, especially if you compare these cars to the rather athletic and trimmed late 1940s Cadillacs. By the mid-1950s, Packard returned with what I think are rather attractive looking models. They are the perfect combination of a modern-day styling of that time, as well as references to the good old days. For instance, you have the hooded headlights. Many cars in the mid-1950s had them, as well as the typical Dagmar bumpers, but still combined with a rather elegant, bold, classical grille that has a touch of harp-shaped grille in it from the classic Packards. And on the rear ends, you can find the rear end in the front of this view, you'll find the cathedral taillights. But alas, that didn't help, as Packard was financially quite struggling in the mid-1950s. And one of the reasons is that they made some choices in the years before that led to this situation, but also they had nothing to back it up. For instance, Cadillac and Lincoln were backed up by all the money that General Motors and Ford had, so if they had a bad year, then there was a Ford or a Chevrolet to make up for it. But Packard had to act alone, and they started to feel the pressure from the big three more and more. In a desperate effort to survive, Packard decided to merge with Studebaker. But that merger was, as we say in Dutch, the lame help the blind. Both companies weren't aware of each other's financial situation, and both were in a very bad financial situation. And so this merger wasn't really a loving relationship by any means. It was more like an abusive relationship where Studebaker was the beating husband and Packard the obedient wife. And The end result is this car right here. This is a Packard Hawk. Among one of the last years and one of the last cars made by Packard, because these are nicknamed the Packard Bakers. This is a thinly disguised Studebaker Hawk, rebranded, rebadged, and restyled to become a Packard with styling that is just, I don't know, a whale looks better than this than this car. But this can be seen as like a closing chapter for Packards. Gone are the grandeur and the big cars that I just showed you earlier in this video. And what is left is a warmed over Studebaker that really lost its Packard connection. So by 1958, 59, the Packard company packed it up. Or is it? In a room full of Packards, this is the odd one out. And I hear you think, what is this and what does this do here? Because this is the only car in a room full of Packards. Well, this is a French Facel Vega, and I think it's an absolutely beautiful car. I have my own personal theory that one of the most beautiful cars ever made, so ever, is usually a combination of American style with European elegance, which this car has. It has that bold European front end and a slight hint of fins in the back. Anyway, so you might think a Facel Vega, what the hell is this doing here? Like, is the only car in this Packard collection? Well, here is a French connection in the Packard collection. See, right around the time when Packard was discontinued, there were immediate talks to revive the brand again, including talks with the French Facel Vega. The idea was to bring over Facel Vegas and rebrand them, rework them, rebadge them as Packards. You can see a picture right here. And so they had little talks about doing this with Studebaker, but you should also know, and this is how the story goes, or the legend goes, Studebaker in the meantime was also the official importer of German Mercedes-Benz in the United States. Some say that's also the reason why some Studebakers kind of look like a Mercedes with the type of grille on the front. And as soon as the Germans learned about the fact that there were ideas to import a French luxury car, well, in the meantime they were sending their German luxury cars, they weren't all too happy to find like competition in American showrooms as they would have in European showrooms back in Europe. And so that idea fell through, and once again the idea to revive Packard was scrapped. Packard was no longer.
Or is it? Here we enter the decades where it was generally quiet around Packard, but numerous attempts were made to revive it. These attempts range from simply getting hold to a name and the rights to actually trying to restart production, including this car right here. This is a Bailiff Packard from 1986. This particular Packard is part of a line of cars made by coach builder Bailiff that range from slightly customized regular production cars to custom built and body kit cars. This one can be best described as a typical Neoclassic revival car or replica car. It certainly features Packard styling elements but rides on standard passenger car underpinnings. It's essentially a General Motors parts bin with a Packard grille attached to it and can be put in the same group of cars like the Panther Westwinds, Tiffany's, Zimmers, and of course Excaliburs. So is this truly a Packard? I'll let you decide in the comments, but truth is, after these cars, Packard was no more.
Or is it? I'm sitting here in the library section of the collection, surrounded by photos, technical data, and drawings of the next step of the rebirth of Packard.
See, by the early 1990s, the name and rise of the Packard brand was transferred from Bailiff to a man named Roy Gullickson for the modest sum of about $100 grand in today's money. Yes, that's how much a dead brand costs these days. He was destined to revive the brand one more time and made plans to start up limited production. But first, a prototype was needed. It was Gullickson's desire to build an all-new, ultra-luxurious car, like what Packard used to be, with a styling that was inspired particularly by the 1941 Packard Clipper. The car should have the latest technology, made from aluminium as much as possible, and of course a smooth 12-cylinder engine. It wouldn't be no Packard without a 12. And in 1999, after years of development, a fully functional prototype to show off to investors and clients was ready.
And so here it is, the 1999 Packard Prototype. I hope you can understand how excited I am to be standing right next to this car. I mean, you have to imagine, for instance, I made an episode about the entire history of Packard, which you can watch if you like a couple years ago. And I found out about the existence of this car, but I only saw pictures online. And I always figured this car is just somewhere in some private collection back in the United States, and I should go to, I don't know, Pebble Beach or Concord Elegance or some museum or private collection, really work my way into there to find this car. So I hope you can imagine my excitement when, at the start of this year, I actually found out through pictures that this car was located in the Netherlands, where I live in Holland. And I couldn't hold my excitement thinking, what is this car doing here? How did this end up over here? And that's how I got into contact with the owner. And as it turns out, this car is not in some museum all the way in California, a couple thousand kilometers or miles away. This car is located just 30 minutes from my own home. And I couldn't be happier. So let me show you and introduce you to this prototype that was built in the 1990s for Packard, what is arguably the closest thing that we could ever get to a modern day Packard. I decided to do this in first person view so that you get a better idea and a clear view on this car. 1999 Packard 12 Prototype. So this is a hand-built attempt. This is not, well, it is somewhat of a parts bin, I'll show you in a moment, but the entire body is made of aluminium, it rides on a separate chassis, and it has a V12 engine. So if there is ever an attempt to make a car that is truly a Packard and not just like the Bailiff Packard over there, like standing on existing parts, then it has to be this car. I have to say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It is typical 1990s, but I do like that the flowing bubbly lines, but I do like that they put emphasis on the front and rear fenders, like you'd find on some 1940s cars. And here you got a good view on the rear end. It kind of reminds me of a certain Jaguar or Daimler model. I can't really put quite my finger on it. And these are very blacked out taillights. That gives you an idea. And here we have the Packard inscription. But allow me to show you the front before we get into the interior. And by the way, here we have the beautiful full disc Packard style wheels. The front end is unique. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually cut off one of the classic Packard grills, the harp-shaped grills, in order to make this grill. I do have to say, from a styling point of view, it is somewhat forced, but there are worse ways to design the car, and I do like the kind of the classical touches with the horizontal chrome strips and air inlets or grill right below the dual round headlights. And so let's come into the interior to show you, like from the outside you really can't tell it's based on a modern day car or like a standard car, which it isn't. It really is a unique car, but on the inside you can see that it is somewhat of a homegrown attempt to build a car. Let me just open the door. There's a little bit of paperwork in there, but this, for your eyes only, is the interior of this Packard. It has wood, sure enough, but it's also kind of, plain, simple maybe. You got some speakers in there, and this, for instance, is standard units from some American car, which I am sure you will know what it is. Unfortunately, I don't really, but here is the interior. Lots and lots of wood and leather. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the seats come from some car, but you do have the Packard inscription in the seats, and the center console is quite straightforward. You have a cover up here for the radio, and here you have your air conditioning controls, and that's pretty much it. And there, down below, you have the switches for the windows. As you can see, are just plastic units, as you can probably find on some other cars, as well as the shifter.
The engine is a massive 525 cubic inch or 8.6 liters Falconer Racing overhead valve V12, making a whopping 573 horsepower. It's all aluminium, has electronic fuel ejection, coupled to a GM 4-speed automatic transmission and permanent all-wheel drive. Although the car is big with a massive engine, because almost 95% of its parts is aluminium, the car only weighs around 1700 kilograms or 3700 pounds. That's marginally more than my own car, a 2005 Hyundai XG, and imagine dropping a V12 in that bad boy. The expected acceleration from 0 to 60 miles or 100 kilometers is below 5 seconds.
Never seen before, and never after really, one-of-a-kind Packard Prototype. Wooden steering wheel, classical gauges, even the gear selector is a gauge, and this is all hand-built. And here's where you can see it is somewhat of a parts bin because, have you seen this? The seat belts are actual standard Cadillac units, so there is maybe a bit of General Motors in this design. Unfortunately, the car does not run, and we can't drive it. But yeah, this is the Packard Prototype.
As is always the case with these attempts to revive a brand, it's the lack of money. It cost Roy more than $1 million to make this prototype, but he expected to sell these for as little as $250,000 per car in today's money. He had orders for 70 cars, but he needed an estimated $30 million to set up production. By the early 2010s, Roy preferred to enjoy a retirement over realizing his long-life dream, and sold the rights of the Packard brand as well as the 12 for as little as 10% of all the money he had sank into it. By the mid-2010s, Packard was once again gone. Or is it? A new step has been added to the legacy of Packard. But what it is, you'll find out in part 2.